You ready?
I was born that way.
I'm John Peckman. This is the John Peckman Podcast, coming to you from Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, beautiful downtown Portland, Connecticut. Just over the bridge. Look left. We were. What did you say? I was born like this. I was born that way.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Oh, yeah.
I just improvised.
That's right.
So I don't remember.
His name is Mr. Tracy Walton. Tracy Walton. That's him. He's here live and in person. He is a multi-instrumentalist, owner, operator, proprietor of On Deck Sound Studios in Northfield, Connecticut, which is up Route 8 way, Torrington.
Yep. Close. Yeah. Not quite that far, but up Route 8. Yep.
Sure. Up Route 8. Tracy's been around a while. We've crossed paths now and again.
Yep.
Here we are again.
Here we are.
Where do you want to start?
Wherever you want, man. We just had some nice. We just did the Trace enchiladas at La Boca, which was nice.
Yep, La Boca out back.
A little full, but I'm good. Mm-hmm. It was. I highly recommend. It was John's recommendation. It was yours.
Why not? I haven't been there in a while.
It was good.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what do you? You know what? Let's just start at the beginning. So, music. How did you get started? How did it all happen?
For me, I was, as a kid, I heard, my brother and sister are both older.
Mm-hmm.
They had big record collections. I was telling you at one point that my brother, and at the time, probably spent $5,000 on a Kenwood stereo system, which in that time was just huge money. But he's still, to this day, an audiophile. He's not a musician, doesn't play at all, but.
Right.
And we shared a room, and then he went to the Army, so I inherited all that. So probably about 10 years old.
Did he leave you instructions? Okay, listen.
I'll kill you
if
you mess up my stuff, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty much. At 5 years older, that's the level of like, I will just beat you if you mess up my stuff.
Sure.
And there's not much you could do about it.
Yeah, you have no rights.
But it's 3 years. You're like, okay, I got 3 years, whatever. You know, I'll deal with it then when he gets back.
It's like a Brady Bunch episode.
Yeah.
You break it, and then it replays over and over. And in 3 years, you're like, I have to replace that needle somehow or whatever.
Exactly. But yeah, I kind of wanted to just be Angus Young, you know, or Elvis, one of the two.
How about both?
Both would have been good. I wanted, I wanted to play electric guitar, but my mom bought me an acoustic. Thought it was the same thing. You know, and even today, I'll have people say, like, you know, what should I get my kid? I tell them, get what he wants to play. Like,
sure.
If they want to play metal, get them an electric guitar. You can't play AC/DC. Yeah, on that. So, So I was frustrated and whatever. And eventually, I bought a friend of mine's Flying V.
Oh, nice.
So, and just, you know, started playing like all of us and figuring it out and trading info. And eventually,
this is up there.
I was born in Torrington.
Okay.
Grew up in Harwinton.
Okay.
Back to Torrington, kind of in that area. But yeah, just swapping info with people and figuring it out. And eventually I switched to bass, which seemed more, it just makes sense for me. You know, I'm still.
How did that happen? You just started noticing bass more, or?
There's a little bit of that, and then it was a little bit of I was in a band that needed a bass player, like that thing, you know?
Sure.
And then the second I started playing it, it was like, oh, this is the instrument I'm supposed to be playing. It was pretty immediate, like, oh, this is kind of it.
Yeah.
And I play guitar, for sure, but it's still, you know, bass is the instrument for sure.
Sure. That's cool. Did you keep the Flying V?
I didn't.
You had to trade it, or you?
I sold it to someone for like, you know, whatever, a couple $100.
What was your first bass?
An Ovation, and I loved it. And it's another one. Of course, I you know, at some point you would get the idea that it'd be cool to rip the frets out with a chisel. And
because you heard Jocko
exactly.
once.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even like how this sounds. And I don't play like this at all. Like, why did I do that?
And I'll never be Jocko.
And
it doesn't even,
it's weird. I always equate it, like, I feel like Jocko's a lot like, who's that comedian, Wright? You know that guy,
Stephen Wright. the
Stephen Wright.
deadpan?
Yeah, it's like it's such a thing that you can't do his act. Do you know what I mean? If you
I
did
do.
that, you'd be like, oh, you're literally doing Stephen
'Cause
Wright. That sounds so stupid.
That's the way I feel as a drummer growing up. Not to hijack your thing, but when I was growing up, getting into drums, like Stuart Copeland was the thing. He was huge.
Yeah.
The Police, and you can't. There's not one of his licks that you can cop, unless you're playing a Police song that people are going to go, "Oh yeah, I get it. What are you, Stuart Copeland?"
What are you, Stuart
You
Copeland?
can't.
Yeah.
It's so singular. You can only appreciate it. You can't
Exactly.
bring it out. Yeah.
And
so-
Jocko's that for bass.
Right.
It's just like
Right.
it sounds so silly. Like, and thankfully, I realized that early,
Mm-hmm.
and I also just never wanted to play like that. You know what I
Sure.
mean? It wasn't my thing,
Right.
which takes a ton of practice anyway. So I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to like
Just
shed-
save time.
Yeah, I don't
I
have to
just saved
shed
the-
Donna Lee like forever. You know, I can just work on playing a shuffle. You know,
Right.
which was cool to me. So, so it was the Ovation, and then I had a black Charvel
Okay.
that I loved. I thought it was super cool because it was black.
Sure.
And I worked at Mach 1 Music in Torrington,
Okay.
and a P bass came in. At the time, it was a 74 P bass. I still have it. It's my main bass. And at the
Fender
time,
Precision,
it was
for those who don't know.
and at the time, I was like, I don't want that. It's like brown. Like my bass is black.
Yeah, mine
It's-
looks like a bat.
Mine,
Yeah,
mine
I
is
want
cool.
rock and roll, yeah.
I'm like, I want to play rock. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
play what that thing
Yeah,
plays.
yeah.
But the owner talked me into it and said, "No, this is a good bass.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like it came in for $250. I'll give it to you for $300 right now. You know what I mean? Like because then they weren't really worth anything.
Right.
It was just a whatever. It was like a right now it'd be like a 2005 bass or something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But now it's worth like $4,000 or whatever. And just turned out to be like that thing that, became my instrument, became part of my sound, kind of that whole deal.
So P bass, that's your thing. Was
Yeah.
your thing?
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Who were some of your favorite bass players or inspirations at that time?
At the time, it was Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath.
Sure.
And John Paul Jones from Led
Okay.
Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Those were kind of just the two.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, it was McCartney,
Okay.
who's still my guy. Like
Okay,
McCartney's been number one for me for a long time.
That's cool.
And then
Too bad his band never really made it. Or took
yeah,
off
right,
anyway.
yeah. And then Duck Dunn is probably my other big one.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
just his sound, his feel, his
Yep.
whole thing,
No doubt.
And then jazz wise, I mean, I'm also an upright player, so
Okay. So how'd
there's
that happen?
Ray Brown and Paul Chambers are probably the two guys
Okay.
that I.
How'd you get into that? How did you get from Geezer Butler to jazz?
Yeah, right. I saw Dave Santoro
Okay.
playing in Torrington at a coffee house.
Okay.
Thankfully, and it was kind of like one of those moments where like I walked in at the right time because they were playing Equinox from John Coltrane, which is just a minor blues.
Yep.
And it's, boo, ba, doom, boom, boom, boom. And it was the bridge, like immediately, because I'd heard jazz.
Sure.
I was in a band with a guy that was a jazz guy, a guitar player. But he was always playing me like, Inner Urge and all these, Wayne Shorter tunes.
Yeah, right,
and it was
right.
just so over my head at
Yep.
the time. I heard that though, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I get
Because it was kind of almost it was a
it
blues.
was a blues. It was
Yeah,
a minor
right.
blues. And Dave's a monster player. And I just fell in love with it. And I was like, that's it. And like 2 days later, I went to Zinno's in Waterbury.
Okay.
They had a Crasher upright bass. I bought it.
Wow.
I didn't have a case or anything. I put it in like a drop cloth.
Yeah, right.
And I like had it on my shoulder, Dave still tells his
I
story.
carried it home from the store.
Yeah. No, that's how I showed up for my first lesson. I tracked down Dave,
Wow.
who it turns out Dave lived like 2 miles from me
Oh, wow.
in Torrington.
Yeah, right. So this blew your mind.
Yeah, I was like, this guy, like, you know what I mean? This
Yeah.
world-class player.
Might as
who's-
well.
I'm in,
Take advantage,
So I
yeah.
called, and he was like, yeah, man, come up. Let's do it.
Wow.
But I showed up with it like in a drop cloth. And he's like, what the hell is this guy? Like, oh, my God,
Yeah.
And that was it. I took off from there, and it was probably 2 weeks into it, because I could play at the point. I just couldn't play upright. I tried on my own for a minute, and I was like trying to figure out Zeppelin grooves. And I was like, God, I just can't play this thing. I didn't realize the fingerings are different. It's not four fingers. Yeah. So on an upright, we have cameras, right? It's first finger, second finger is a half step.
Okay.
And then these two fingers are a half step.
Okay.
So to play a whole step, it's 4 fingers.
Oh,
so you don't ever play 4 frets, in other words. You
I never knew
3,
that.
yeah. So they're all different. You can't play in tune because the string length is too long. So I couldn't figure it out, and I went to see him, and then he started to hip to me to like, oh, that thing you do is like the pentatonic scale. And I'm
gotcha.
like, oh, okay. I get that. And he ended up getting me a scholarship at the Hartford Conservatory, because he wanted an upright bass player because he hated electric bass players.
Really? Dave is agreeing.
I taught at the Hartford Conservatory with him.
Okay, nice.
Dave Kuzminski, our boss off camera, is
nice.
All up in this.
Okay, beautiful.
He's part of the story without you didn't even realize.
I didn't realize. Yeah, the circle goes. So
Yeah.
Dave got me the scholarship, and then it was like the next lesson he asked me to transcribe Paul Chambers solo.
Okay.
And I had like my own way of writing, like that I came up with. I didn't know how to read music.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
Right.
So I had no idea. I had all these like weird ways of like notating like what to do.
Yeah.
And he grabs the paper and he's like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, what's this? Yeah.
I'm like, "That's how I write." He's like, "You don't read music?"
I'm gonna have to take that scholarship away from you.
He's like, they're gonna look at me like, "What are you doing?
What's he doing here?"
You gave a guy a scholarship. He can't even read music.
Yeah.
He's like, "We got to teach you to read
Geezer
music."
Butler over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I had like 3 weeks to just crash course, like reading music.
Were you close? Were you hieroglyphic? Because I mean, look,
no, I made it up. I had they weren't even. Completely. I don't even remember what it looked like, but it was just like.
Yeah.
I just made my own kind of little
reminders, visuals that look like.
Yeah, let me know, like, play that thing when I do this, and and it was like, it's a Paul Chambers line, so it's like beep abba doo bab.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm trying to like. I have no idea.
So talk about a crash course.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
transcribing.
So that was it. So then I studied there with him. Played tons.
And this is after high school, obviously.
Yeah, this was in my early. I was like 23, I think, when I did this. So I'd already
rock and roll gigs this whole time.
Yeah, I'd played rock up to that. I was in a band, Iron Horse, which was in that area of the state, a bigger band.
Yep.
So I'd been playing. I could, I was cutting gigs and could play, I just hadn't played upright.
What did your rock and roll friends think? You didn't care?
I didn't care. I'm always just like, whatever.
Did you think you were going to quit rock and roll and play jazz, or you just interested? You're just kind of getting into it.
Well, it was funny. I got into it, but I also, it's funny, like looking back, like how naive I was.
Yeah.
At the time I was in that band, we lived, there was 3 of us in the band. We lived in a place in Torrington in a house, and it was kind of like a weird deal. It was always like the guitar player got the rent, but I could tell it was weird. I just didn't ask, So it was like, we were there for like a year and a half, and we came home, and there was like a condemned thing on
party house.
Yeah, but it was like the place got condemned while we were there, and it turned out there was like, I don't even know if he owned the place. Like, we weren't even supposed to be there the whole time. Right. We were just paying him, who like but we were paying like I think it was $300 or something. So it was $100 a piece.
Wow.
And but that was it. It was kind of like, man, this is going to be like, and we were talking earlier, it was like, man, this is going to be a rough road, like living in condemned places and making like $100 playing rock gigs.
Right. Getting ripped off by actually one of the people you're living with.
Yeah.
Pocketing your rent.
Yeah. So, so my idea for security was go become a jazz musician.
Oh yeah, because that's where the money is.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, that's how naive I was. Like, if I go here, then I can really make a living playing music.
Sure.
I'll be legit. And
Yeah,
whatever.
they dress up for their gigs. They're wearing ties. They must be. Yeah, they must know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that was it. So I went that road. Kept playing. I was in a trio. It's funny. The trio started. It was. The drum chair was like a great drum chair. Jim Oblon was in the trio for a while.
Oh, wow.
The Eric Miller trio.
Wow, cool.
Oh man, Josh Dion.
Okay,
who's now in Paris Monster.
Wow, sure.
Took his place.
Whoa.
And then a guy Mick Nikosha.
Okay, him I don't know.
You probably don't know. He's a Northwest Corner guy, but he's like this mix, like brilliant drummer, but just like, you know, super into like Dylan Thomas and Bukowski and like, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's a tough cat to explain, but a great dude, and like, you know what I mean, like, but yeah. So
I'm into Dylan Thomas. What do you?
Yeah. No, just like
no, whatever.
Yeah. Like, so that was that. I forget why I was talking about that trio.
Yeah.
But so that trio, once Mick got in it, it was a guitar trio, and we started getting to a point where like the joke was how many like classic rock riffs can you put in a bebop solo?
Oh, cool.
By the end of the night.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'd be playing a standard and I'd be playing
shows
yeah,
up
exactly. You know what I mean? That was kind of the joke, and we'd go into like Sabbath grooves in the middle of the thing. That band turned into a band Missing Slim.
Okay.
Who was, I just had seen, someone just shared that thing that I shared, where you were the state's drummer.
Okay.
Matt Starr was the advocate singer.
You're right. Yeah.
My band, Missing Slim, was the best new band.
I got you.
Adios Pantalones with Chip and those guys, like that whole scene there.
Sure. Yeah.
So that got me back into that, into the rock scene, and then I kind of moved. I was on a gig the day Johnny Cash died. And I said we should play like a Johnny Cash tune.
Sure.
And everyone looked at me like my head was on fire, you know? It was a jazz gig, you know?
Yeah, right.
And I was just like, I said, dude, it's like, it's Johnny Cash. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it was that thing. And I was just like, oh man, maybe this isn't my scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was kind of the one where I still do some hits, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Once in a while, I'll you know, play a trio gig or something, a private thing. But
that was like the beginning of the end of your jazz thing, kind of.
Yeah, and I did it, and that was, you know, that was whatever, years into it.
Wow.
I just was kind of like, you know, find another scene that.
Yeah, you don't want to be around people that are going to diss Johnny Cash. You don't need that.
Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't feeling it. So I split and yeah, then I was doing something else.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So how your studio? So talk about you own and operate a recording studio.
Yeah.
How did you become a recording? What's the word I'm looking for? How did you begin your recording?
Engineer?
Engineer, if you want to call it that.
Sure. Or
Was that something that was...
recordist?
Yeah, a recordist. Sure.
Yeah. I still want to ask you about Paul McCartney too. I got to ask
All right,
you about.
don't forget.
I won't forget that.
Yeah.
I had, like everyone else, the Tascam cassette thing.
Yep.
In the early 90s.
Okay.
I got hip to ADATs.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought 2 blackface ADATs, which I still have, which still work amazingly.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good. That's cool.
They're still sitting there. I still have them racked up in the studio.
Nice. That's good to know.
Yeah. And that was it. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to start like making, and I got it more to make my own records and just, you know, kind of do the thing and figure it out. And we talked about, like, you know, I had no idea what I was doing. And like, just I had a Tascam 2428 board, which was like a live board that I thought was a mixing console. I thought it was a Neve, and like I was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I had no outboard gear. I had an Alesis MIDI Verb,
right?
And a DBX compressor, and I was off and making music. I had a AKG C3000 was my main mic.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Use that on everything.
Everything, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And thought it was like a $300 mic, and I was like, wow, this is a good mic.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? You know what I mean? So, and that was it. I just started making records and figuring it out. And as you go, thankfully, early on, I took a leap of faith. And at the time, it was insane. I bought a U87.
Whoa.
And I was just like, you know what? I'm going for it. I don't care.
Yeah,
and every dime I had, I just spent all my money on a U87.
On one good microphone.
On a good microphone.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I get it.
Now I'm in the gig.
That's why vocals sound like that. That's why stuff sounds good.
Yeah, right.
And that's why all this time, even, I look back, still a lot of it was because I didn't know what I was doing. But I didn't know what I was doing and didn't have the gear.
Right.
Now at least I had the gear and could at least hear like, oh, okay, I see why these vocals sit
right
where they're supposed to in the mix.
Yeah, imagine that.
And that was it. And then I just kept going. I got into Pro Tools.
You still have the 87?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I just got it. I finally, it was kind of my dream pair. And literally, I think within the year, I got a second. So now I have a pair of U87s, which is like, my piano, my whirly, my stereo pair. It's like, oh, it's great. We went up to a friend of mine, Joe DeBlasi, owns Litchfield Piano Works in Litchfield. And he has a Steinway B.
Okay.
Which is like Bohemian Rhapsody was recorded on a Steinway B. It's $120,000 piano, right. And I have access to it, So I went up. My new record, I recorded the main kind of epic tune. We went up and put 2 U87s on this Steinway B, and it's like, oh my God.
That's it?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
In case anybody doesn't know, so we're talking about 87s is a Neumann. It's a really good microphone.
Yeah.
It's like you're in the big leagues when you get a mic like that. You have a stereo pair. You can record anything.
Yeah,
pretty much.
You get the stereo image of that.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then I got into Pro Tools.
Mm-hmm.
And a buddy of mine, John Roper, who's a really great engineer. When I decided, I was in the basement for years. And I had a full studio down there or whatever you want to call that, a basement studio. And eventually I was like, I just need a light. I've got to get out of this place. And so I was going to put a studio in Torrington. It just didn't hash out.
Yeah.
My brother's a builder.
Okay.
My brother with the record collection. Yeah. He's a builder.
Got it.
We built a studio off of my house. At that point I put in a separate entrance, put in an alarm, and felt like, oh, okay, cool. It's its own thing now. I never really opened my studio to the public. I opened it to people I knew who were like, yeah, cool, I know you.
Yeah,
I'm cool with you being in my house and like, whatever. We're friends. But now it's like there's a separate entrance. It's its own kind of entity. And I put the sign out front and said, probably 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I said, let's start
see who shows up.
See who shows up. And it just took off,
Wow.
and it's been cool, and people are still asking me to make records for them. So
that's wild.
And I have a good bunch of players.
Yep.
That kind of are there. Matt Starr does all of his drums there now, who's been on. But I have, Steve Peck. I don't know if you know Steve.
Yep.
Super
he's got his own thing.
Yeah. Like if I want to shuffle, it's like, call Steve, you know what I mean? And he comes over and he's probably 15 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
Super good dude.
Yeah. I'd call Steve if he lived 15 minutes from me. I'd call him.
Yeah.
Why
right.
wouldn't you?
Yeah. He just has such a great feel, and he's such an easy guy to work with. He's like, I don't care, whatever. Whoa.
What was that? Who knows?
Something took off.
That's all right.
So Steve does a bunch of stuff. Glenn Nelson, great keyboard player.
I don't know if I know him.
B3, he plays a bunch of stuff. Jeff Chen does, strings. I just, bring in people. I play as much as I can, but certainly know my limitations when,
Sure.
like, you want... Like, I play drums.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
But-
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, right? I mean,
I
I've
taught you
taken
everything you know.
I've taken a lesson with the man himself. I love playing drums, and there's certain things I can do and, like, feel good. Other stuff, I'm like,
Get
like
Steve
that.
Peck in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that half swing, half, straight thing.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like,
He's great. Yeah, that's his thing.
Yeah, that you do so good. You know what I mean? What's his name? Tom
Artelino?
Artelino.
Oh, God.
That thing.
Yes.
I can't. You know what I mean? I'd need another lifetime to do that.
Yeah.
So then I'm smart enough to say, like, why am I going to practice that hard?
Right.
I'll just call. It was like the Jocko thing I learned
Right.
early on.
Right.
Like,
Right.
don't practice
Yeah.
that hard.
Yeah.
Just call John or call Steve
Yep.
or call those guys.
Yep.
So then there's a great group of guys and women that are into, making good records. Jeff Howard's been playing there a bunch lately. Jeff's a young guy, was in the McLovins
Okay.
for a long time. Really great player, super good guy.
Cool.
Julia Autumn Ford, who I was in Belle of the Fall with, is still there. She works there a couple days a week.
Yep.
Sings like a bird.
What do you do
cool
most
lab.
of? Just all kinds of stuff there. Is there a specialty, or you'll do whatever?
It's funny, like, I did a lot of acoustic stuff for a long time. It's funny, too. I have, like, one ear half off because I feel like we're tracking.
Yeah, right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
me
Like,
too.
I feel right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just noticed.
Yeah. Well, we are tracking in a way.
We are,
kinda, if
but
you
it's
wanna
not
think about
like
it
I'm
that way.
trying to hear my upright. I'm like sneaking off an ear. What was I saying?
We were. I was asking you, is there a specialty? And you said you acoustic, kind of.
Well, it became that only because I don't know why, really. Just some of it, maybe some of it was the Belle of the Fall thing. People were seeing that when we were out a lot, and people were coming
Tell us
there.
what that
and
is, so we know.
Belle of the Fall is myself and Julia Autumn Ford. It was a duo. It was a lot of 2-part harmony.
Okay.
We recorded 3 records. We toured all over,
But more acoustically.
straight up acoustic. I
Okay.
played upright bass.
So that's your.
She played a
that's fine.
nylon string guitar,
Wow.
and we sang a lot of like 2-part Simon and Garfunkel type harmonies. Released 3 records. We toured all over, played Canada, South by Southwest, big festivals. It was a great band. But so that brought a lot of people to the studio
Gotcha.
that I didn't know in my circle. So, and it got to a point where like people were like, oh, like I remember one time I posted, I was listening to Flight of Icarus,
Sure.
and someone was like, oh my God, you're listening to Iron Maiden? It's like, oh,
You don't know me. You're like,
exactly.
You
I'm like,
clearly don't know me.
Yeah,
bro.
clearly don't know. Like, yeah, like that's, I cut my teeth playing.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I still, but for whatever reason, that acoustic thing, and honestly though too, I do, in a way, I probably enjoy that more. I think because yeah, like there's something that singer-songwriter thing, or even the Springsteen thing, there's a little bit more layers to it, I guess.
Okay.
Rather than just like,
Yeah, a wall of guitar or
yeah,
whatever.
we're gonna put a rock band in and just track it, and and that's fun too, and
Yep.
and that's cool. But there's something fun about the Beatles'
So you were okay-
strategy
right.
of
Piecing
making a
things
record
together. Yep.
like Sgt. Pepper,
So you were okay with all the acoustic people, kind of.
Yeah.
You were like, all right,
Yeah,
I'll go this way.
and that's totally cool. And I still do. I just did a meditation for for an app.
Wow.
They did like a spoken word
Sure.
meditation thing. I did it. So I do some of that too.
All kinds.
I've done commercials for the Can You Hear Me Now?
Yeah, right.
You know that one?
Yeah, yeah.
That guy lives like right near me.
Oh, really?
So he, rather than like if he has to do stuff, rather than flying to Miami, he'll
Right.
come in and cut
Oh, hey, that's
something
cool.
there. The first time they sent me a thing and said, our client wants to cut this script or wants to cut a thing, and he wants to use your studio. And I'm thinking like, this is, okay, what's this about? You know?
Yeah.
And they send me the thing, and it's the Can You Hear Me Now guy and David Beckham.
Oh,
They're
wow.
the two in the commercial.
Yikes.
And they're saying my client wants to come in. I'm like, so either the Hear Me Now guy or David Beckham's going to show up. And I have no idea who it is. And I'm like, this might just be like someone goofing.
So you didn't know that the Can You Hear Me Now guy lived in your town?
No idea.
Oh, wow.
So it was like and then they kept going with it, and it was like, yeah, he'll be there 12 o'clock, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
and I'm still thinking like, man, it may Beckham may show up. You know what I mean? For all I know, it's him. And it turned out he pulled in, and it was like, here's the guy. And
you were sad a little. No, you
that
can't
it wasn't.
say that.
No, he was just super nice. I mean, it would have been cool to be like, hey, David Beckham's at the studio.
That moment when
of course,
you're like, oh, no, you can't.
Yeah, but he was a super cool dude,
Yeah,
and he's come back for other sessions. And
so how did they find you? Because he lives near you and looked up.
And someone said like, oh, go see. He's like, I don't feel like I think he said he was like at a dinner. And he was like, man, I got to fly to Miami tomorrow.
I got to find someone that's got an 87.
Exactly.
Who's got an 87?
And that was it. And he said, and the guy was like, I'll go see Tracy. And he talked to his agent. So
because you own that corner of the state, yo. It's like anybody's going to be like, call Tracy.
That's it.
Good. That's good. That's the way it should be.
It's a cool part. For me, it's a cool part of growing up in that area.
Right.
It is like you kind of know everyone, and you're like, yeah, of course.
Why not? And you get it done.
Yeah,
you get the stuff done. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now guy?
Yeah. So he comes in. Yeah. So all kinds of stuff, which is fun. Like, you know what I mean? There's sometimes, for me, it's like it's cool sometimes to take the day out. It's not always just music, you know.
Right.
It's like a different skill set or whatever. And I make videos there. We do a lot of videos.
Right.
Which has been really fun.
How'd you get into that?
That was one, honestly, that came from Belle of the Fall. We just got so frustrated trying to find someone to do videos for us that would actually like make the vision we were thinking. We just couldn't find anyone that
said, we'll
and
do
finally I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to buy all the stuff. We'll do it ourselves. We'll figure it out.
And then that's another thing that you offer at your studio.
And then it turned into where it was like, oh, wait a minute, we can do this. Like I bought a bunch of good gear and
that's awesome.
Really just, taught ourselves to, and I just talked to him today, a friend of mine, Michael Medeiros, who's a director.
Yep.
One of his claims to fame is he was in RoboCop 2.
Okay.
Big movie. But no, he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's been in X-Men. He's been in, big budget Vince Vaughn movies.
Yeah.
So like anything else, it's like when you work with someone who's done that, they know how to work the way pros work.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So he came in and it was like, even the vocabulary, you're like, we don't even know what that means because we're just making this up.
Yeah.
And it's like
time to get it together.
But it kind of taught us how to make videos.
That's cool.
Which was great.
Why not? Just another thing.
Loved it.
Another thing you could add to your. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and just and makes it interesting.
Awesome. Was not aware of this. I saw something that you posted. So you wrote a couple of books.
Yes.
What's that all about?
So I taught for the National Guitar Workshop.
Okay.
Which was originally I thought it was like kind of just a summer camp thing. Like it was kind of like, I'm not really into it.
Yeah.
But finally, a friend of mine was working there. Said, yeah, man, it's like a heavy place. Like
Where
Pat
is
Metheny. It's defunct now, but it was. They had campuses in Seattle, L.A., all over the country. The main hub started in Litchfield.
Right.
And it's like that old thing, like how could the local be any good? That
Yeah,
mentality,
right, sure,
I had that about them. I was like, they're from Litchfield. It can't be a good camp.
Yeah.
But it turns out like Pat Metheny was there, Paul Gilbert was there, like all these super heavy, Bootsy Collins was there doing stuff. And I was like, wow, man, this is heavy. So I took the gig, ended up it was kind of a game changer for my career, or whatever you want to call it. Just with all the people I met there, and that kind of still come into play all the time. Through that connection, I started writing for Alfred Books, which I wrote 3 bass books for them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which was cool. I wrote a theory book. The one I wrote, they pitched me of all people, and I told them when they pitched it, I was like, I'm not your guy.
Yeah, right.
They wanted a bass chord encyclopedia.
Yeah.
I'm like, you realize I play
like one page.
Yeah,
long.
I play like a P bass with flat wounds.
Right,
like
right.
I'm not that chord guy.
Right.
But they were like, no, we want you to write it, and like I'm like, okay, cool, like I'll do it, I guess. And later on, I remembered as a kid, what was his name? I can't think of his name, but there was a bass chord. It was like one of those. Remember those books that were that shape?
Yeah.
Like they were right.
Yeah, and maybe it had a dial or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, but as a kid, I was like, as a bass player, I was like, ooh, I could play chords. I bought that book and first time I saw it.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
still
wait
to
till they
this,
get a load of this.
yeah, still to
check
this
this
day, like that bass chord encyclopedia that I wrote 20 years ago still sells really well. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Right, because there's
like,
somebody out there is going to go bass chords.
there's a kid out there right now
Yeah,
looking
saying,
at my book somewhere.
Yeah,
and
going,
saying-
I'm going to show that guitar player. Wait, I'm going to blow his mind. Yeah.
So, and to that kid, I say sorry, that I'm the guy that wrote the book, that you're going to 10 years
Right.
later say, why the hell am I playing this?
Start all kinds of static in your band.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, hey, man, they asked you to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, it's cool. It's good information. And,
Yeah.
Someone just needs to tell you, like, don't play it on a
Yeah,
gig.
just don't play anything that's in here. It's good to know. Just don't actually do it.
Just don't do it on a gig, and you'll be totally good,
That's cool.
So I need to ask you, because I know studio-wise and Beatles-wise,
Beatle-wise.
I think you're way more of an authority than I am.
I guess.
So, sure. And I was telling you, I kind of had, we touched a little. Someone posted a picture. I won't say his name.
Okay.
He's a good guy, but, and it wasn't a contentious thing. But he
Right.
posted a picture of Paul
Sure.
sitting at Ringo's kit.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was claimed to be the Sgt. Pepper session. He
Okay.
had the mustache. It
Yep.
looked like that
Yep.
era.
Yep.
And
And then it
guy-
was
and
Paul
the-
played everything. Ringo sucks. Yeah.
No, it wasn't that. He had said, excuse me, that he goes, here's Paul McCartney sitting at the equivalent of a home studio, making one of the great drum records of all time. And I was like, the picture looked a little like, whatever, like they had a baffle up that looked kind of,
I'd have to see the picture.
it's kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
But it still was like in Abbey Road.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, they had it. Okay. Go.
So, and my
I'll tell you
response
what.
to him was like, to compare that, and the mic setup was funny. It was, they had a bunch of D19s kind of
Yeah.
in weird, almost like a couple weird spots, But still, it was like, okay, but so one, there's like 8 D19s in the picture.
I'd have to see this picture.
There's, and I'm going to show you as
All
we
right,
go.
okay.
Is that cool?
All right,
Right?
good,
We can
good,
do
good,
that,
good.
right? We can hold it up to the camera even.
Yeah.
No
I don't
rules,
know.
right?
We probably could, right?
No rules.
No, I don't think there's any rules. Yeah.
yeah.
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
Let's get to the bottom.
This
of
is it. Yeah, this is it. We're going to get to the bottom. Because I know in that session they talked about they took the bottom heads off
Sure.
and mic'd up in his toms.
Yep. They tried that. Sure.
Yep. And either way, my point to him was, even if you think that's a weird setup, they're still in Abbey Road.
Yeah.
And to compare it to a home studio, like they're still, either way, the end of those cables go into like,
Yeah.
in today's money, like a $200,000 console,
Yeah.
into a tape deck,
That's
which
right.
you're like,
No. Yeah. I don't.
yeah.
I don't
So-
think in '67 Pete Townsend might have been the only one of those dudes that had a home studio set up. Yeah. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, he was just saying it looks like a home
Yeah,
studio.
right. I see what you're saying.
But
No,
it's like, it's still like,
no, that, yeah.
my question to you is, as
Yeah.
far as I can tell, having read Jeff Emmerich's book.
Okay, well,
I
first
didn't
of all,
think-
that's Paul, as we know for a fact, Paul McCartney is dead, so that's his imposter, number one.
Okay,
I'm just
beautiful. Okay. But as far as I know from reading Emmerich's book,
Yeah.
Paul didn't play on Sgt. Pepper.
Play drums.
Yes.
No, not that I know of.
I don't think he did.
No, not
And
that
Jeff
I know
Emmerich was pretty forthcoming to say like who played what and
of. Right. I mean, I think we all know what Paul played on
yeah.
by now, and I don't think there's anything on Pepper that made the.
For drums.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he's just sitting at the kit. Just happens to probably be
yeah.
like at any
I have
time.
a picture
like-
of John Lennon during that same period behind the kit.
yeah.
So it's just, I'm sure they all, whatever, at one point or another ended up behind the kit screwing around like we do.
Of
And
course.
someone takes a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I'm not positive. I do see what you're saying. So this picture, I don't know. I have no idea if you would, what camera to point this at. But
Here, let me see. I'm going
I
to point it right at this one right here.
yeah.
Just
see if
for, anyways.
you know
let's
what?
see.
I'll be able to tell you if it's right because I'm seeing, actually do it right here.
Can you do that?
Do it to this camera.
Okay, this one. Oh,
Yeah, it's all right.
damn it. Oh,
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
how's that? Can you
All right,
see
does
it?
everybody see that out in
Yeah.
Disney World or whatever? All right, so yeah, that's the picture that we're talking about. All right, and it just faded away. Don't worry
Okay.
about it. We got it.
Yeah.
I think.
Tell me,
if
give me
you're
the
out-
info. Because I love this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Not all, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to like
Yep.
dispute anyone's thing.
Right.
It's more like it always gets me charged up to try to figure out what they were doing.
Sure.
and-
Here's what I think.
Okay.
We'll have to figure it out. No,
Okay.
Paul did not play drums on any Sgt. Pepper tracks that we know of.
yes, agreed.
I also think that it's possible that that is not Abbey Road because they built there was like a drum hut that you usually see Ringo in. It's like a hut within
Yeah.
Studio 2. That doesn't look like Abbey Road's floor to me.
Okay. And I
But-
didn't recognize it either. That's why I was confused.
But, you know, they recorded at they did man, I can't remember. Now you got me going.
okay.
They did Baby You're a Rich Man
Yeah.
in a different studio at either Delane or Delia Studios.
Okay.
Or what's the other place where the Stones recorded? But anyway, they went to another couple of studios in London. Could
During Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to read.
I-
I skimmed the chapter.
She's leaving home. There was a couple of tracks that were not recorded at Abbey Road.
Okay.
1 or 2.
But Emmerich went with them.
I believe
record
so.
them, yeah.
I believe so.
He was kind of the, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
Jeff Emmerich was the engineer.
He was the
For
engineer.
people listening.
Yep.
George Martin famously was the producer. Jeff was the guy who would
Yep.
spin the knobs
Yep.
and make the stuff happen.
Yeah, that could be them at a different studio. That's what I
Yeah.
think. That's what I think that is.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. And I didn't recognize the picture.
Mhm.
Regardless
No, I never-
of that, my point was
Yeah, I didn't
either
recognize-
way,
I didn't
there's
recognize
still
that
the end of those cables are going to like you
Yeah.
know, they're the Beatles. At Sgt. Pepper, they weren't like doing it where it's like, oh, it's an Apollo 2 channel or you know what I
No.
mean? Like
No, I don't want to be a total know-it-all, and this is only based on all the sources that we already know.
Sure.
But I really don't think that there were too many people with home recording setups. That would have been 67.
Yeah.
That photo.
No, he was saying it looks like
Yeah.
it could be today's home studio.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, maybe look like the aesthetics of it, but
Yeah,
still you're using like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, no.
you're going into like
Yeah, still going into a
serious console, into a serious tape
Yep.
machine.
yeah, definitely.
And I guess the one thing, and we've talked about this in the past, the one thing that people discredit, and that was, I think that, and that's what I said, like one, you'd need a pocket full of those microphones, a large format console, a tape deck,
Yeah. No one had that.
and then you'd also need, you know, and today, in your home studio today, and then in your closet, you'd have to stash Jeff Emmerich,
Right.
George Martin,
Right.
And then once you had all that, you'd have to call Paul McCartney.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or Ringo to get, like, there's all these people always discredit. Like, even today, if you gave me, Jeff Emmerich, I'd give you all the gear in the world and be like, hey, man, here's a 4-track. Let's go make a record.
Yeah.
And he was a genius.
Yeah.
People discredit. I always compare it to, like, if you put me in a garage with every tool in the world,
right,
I still can't fix a car. I have no idea how they work.
Right.
I have every tool in the world. I still need a mechanic.
Right. Yeah. I think it's I don't know how you put it. It's like an aesthetic choice. I don't know if Jeff Emmerich had the vision or whether they were stumbling on things, but you have to have an idea of the sound that you want to make, or maybe in Jeff Emmerich's case, as I understand it, him being young, was the willingness to experiment.
Yeah.
Sure. That's...
And even though in his book, he said, like, even as a little kid, he had a tape deck and he was splicing tapes. And he was like...
Right. So he was ready for it.
He was an audio... Okay. Yeah. He was just a guy that, like, wanted to make sounds, Yeah. Was curious how that stuff worked.
He was in the right place at the right time.
That too,
Yeah.
And was in a world-class studio. That certainly, like we talked about the U87. Like, oh, wow, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
I almost can't mess that up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's see what happens if we, and then whatever.
And then you're off
and
running.
Move everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's not the, I've seen have you seen, well, we have to get off of this. We got to get into something else.
Okay.
This was a mind-blowing picture I never saw that resurfaced at some point. There's a picture of McCartney. It's clearly Abbey Road.
Okay.
And he's playing it's McCartney behind the drums playing a double bass setup, 2 kick drums.
I saw
I'm
that.
just like, what track is that?
Yeah.
And you can see that, like, there's a certain point where Ringo still has his Black Oyster Pearl Ludwig, and then they got these other kind of maple, a 5-piece. So there's the 2 rack toms, but he had them on a stand. So instead of rack mounted on the drums, they were on a stand, so they're like slightly off center. I don't know if you follow me, but
yeah.
But they put the Black Oyster Pearl bass drum and the new bass drum and put the rack toms in the middle, so it looks like Ginger Baker. Two double bass like this, 2 rack toms in front, and there's Paul, behind the kit with a cigarette in his mouth, playing this giant double bass kit, and you're like, what track's that? It would have to be around Abbey Road, I think, is when that kit showed up. So it's later. But I don't think any of that made it onto tape. But it's just funny because you just go, it must have just been one night where they're like, hey, let's put these 2 kits together.
And just mess with it.
Yeah, and they must have taken turns messing. But to see McCartney,
like She's So Heavy or something.
Yeah, or something like
just
that.
Tried it.
Yeah. But I don't know if that ever... Now, once I saw that picture, I kind of went back and said, is there any track that could be on?
Yeah.
And I didn't... It doesn't sound like it, but that must have been a funny night. Where they're like, hey, let's try this. And did you ever hear the theory? This one's actually really compelling. So a guy has this thing on YouTube about a theory that the Beatles had a fretless guitar, a fretless electric guitar for some of the licks that they're playing.
Okay.
And it come to find out through some sleuthism, John Lennon was doing an interview around that time, fooling around with a fretless guitar, and he's going, yeah, look at this. Someone just gave it to us. And then people are starting to go back and go, that one lick, is that a fretless guitar?
Interesting.
And no one, so they were in possession of one.
All right.
The question is, some of the licks that you're hearing, is it possible that they were playing a fretless guitar? And we don't have an answer yet. Because Paul doesn't remember.
Sure.
Ringo doesn't care, and George is dead.
Yeah.
But like Happiness is a Warm Gun, the guitar, there's like, George is into bending because he was playing sitar, but you can conceivably, I heard a dude, like he had a fretless guitar and he goes, you tell me, I'm going to play the lick on and you tell me if you think that, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. And then you just go, oh, wait, they were in possession of one.
Yeah, without notes and stuff, it's funny as I read because I'm always reading.
Sure.
Like for people that don't know, John and I do have a book club that we started.
Yeah, we're the only members of.
We're the only members. There's one rule so far, and I already broke it.
Yeah, you broke it.
That
Yeah, you went out of order.
Yeah. So I'll tell the story that I sent you the message and said, like, I'm about to get into this book. Which are we going? Should we jump around and do? Or how did you do? And you were like, I started from page 1 and I read the book.
Yeah.
So that was the first rule of book club: start from the page 1. But then I immediately jumped to like rumors and
yeah, you don't
in
get
the
to
attic.
pick. Yeah, you get what you get.
You
That's
know,
the whole thing.
I just went right in it.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, so what I was saying is, as I read a lot of these books, you can tell, because even for me, like, I can't remember. There's times I hear records that I made, and I'm like,
dude,
is that me like playing even? Like,
I
don't
get
know.
older,
It's
that
like,
happens all the
I was
time.
like, I don't know who played that guitar part. Never mind what guitar it was.
Yeah. Now imagine you're McCartney and people are like, "This is important. What exactly did you eat for?" You're like, "Dude, I don't remember."
Yeah, but sometimes some of those books, like I think Emmerich was one of them, who's pretty detailed about like, this was what we did, and he must have taken notes.
Yeah.
Where other guys like Glenn John is
Yeah, they're
like,
just like,
yeah,
whatever.
I was kind of did this, and I don't know, I might have
suppose
been
it's
there.
possible.
And exactly. Yeah, and I don't take notes of sessions. I kind of, I'm never like, oh,
Maybe you should. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it'd be pretentious or something. Like, I don't know.
Who
But
knows?
yeah, but like I said, I don't remember, what, where, who, what amp
Right.
we used.
Yeah, I
and-
don't either.
Yeah.
A lot of
You're
times I don't.
You know?
I don't know if you're at this point in life, but as I get older, I run into people more and more that are telling me about things that I did or said that I don't.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh man, don't you remember that time we played a gig and you jumped out of the window onto the?" No,
Yeah.
I don't remember that, and it's not even because I was impaired in any way. I just
Sure.
don't. I don't know whether it's because I was so wild that it didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
Some of the things that people remember. Oh man, you don't remember when you said that? It was awesome, and I'm like, dude, I say awesome things all the time. I can't keep track of all. of
Yeah.
them.
Someone did that to me. It was just a while ago, and I because I'm at that point too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm
where they're-
losing it. I'm
yeah.
like, is that another person?
Yeah, it's weird.
That
Like
lived that
someone
way.
asked, he's like, "Do you remember when you rode your Harley Davidson through McDonald's?" Remember back in the day, everyone hung out at McDonald's. Maybe
Sure.
they
Oh,
didn't.
yeah.
Up in Northwest Corner, there was a McDonald's and a Burger King. You went back and forth and just drove the parking lots.
I
and
might even
everyone,
know that exact McDonald's.
Everyone hung out.
And you
know?
take the left, takes you into Torrington. Never mind.
That's the one up top. That's
Okay,
a different
all right.
one. This
Never
is
mind.
downtown.
Okay.
But anyway, so someone was like, "Yeah, man, that time you rode your Harley naked through McDonald's."
Nice.
And I had no recollection of it.
But you
until
remember
they
what you ordered? No.
Yeah, I kind of remember it. You know what I mean? But it was like, oh my god, I forgot I even did that. Like someone
Wow.
back then, like I was like, whatever. Like if you got enough money, like I'll go for it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah,
So I'm
dare me.
sure they ponied up $80, and I
you
was
were
like,
like,
yeah, man, I was butt naked.
here
And
we
I
go.
hopped on a Harley, and I went through like 2 miles an hour, just and
Why not?
butt naked and whatever. There's always the story though. Do you remember playing a recording session in your pajamas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that differently. I forgot, so you reminded me. Yeah.
So that's what I'm
when
saying.
we first started
That's
working
another
together.
one. Yeah. The first time I met, I'll tell it quick.
Yeah, okay.
The first
Then I'll
time I
tell my
met.
version.
Okay. Mine's better. You should
Yeah, it
just
is.
leave it at mine.
you're right.
So the first time I meet John, I get a call for, or he actually came to a gig. It was a jazz gig, actually, that I was doing. And I think it might have been me, Josh Dion, and Eric Miller.
Okay.
James Velvet was
Yep.
making a record.
Yep.
Who's passed since,
Mm-hmm.
dear guy. He used to do the local band show
Sure.
with Rick Allison. He came to Borders Books,
Okay.
found me, big tall guy,
Yep.
and like kind of a character. And I was like,
Oh,
who's
yeah.
this guy? And he comes up after. He's like, hey man, I'm making a record, and I heard I need an upright bass player, and I heard you're the guy. And I'm like, yeah man, cool, let's do it. This would be fun.
Yeah.
So I go. Jim Chapdelaine
Sure.
is producing the record.
Yep.
I go in, and I don't know anyone there, and we're in a basement. I'm in my own little window, and then
Sure.
the drummer shows up in his pajamas and slippers, John Peckman.
Yeah. That was me.
And I'm like, wow, this dude's really in his pajamas right now.
Yeah, I really was. Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
we're at a recording session. I expect, you know,
Right.
And
what's with
and
this
I was
dude?
I was like, wow, this dude's eccentric, man. It's gonna be wild, you know. And I was a little nervous. I was thinking, like, you know,
Yeah.
but then of course you played, and I was like, oh, okay, he can wear pajamas. If you play like that, you can wear what you want, you
See?
know.
Let that be a lesson to you.
I
I guess.
So that was the first time we met. You came down in pajamas.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That I remember.
So that was yeah.
Can I tell why that really was? I like
think
that version.
That's the version, man. That's it. They don't need to know anything else.
All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
There you go.
I played the session in pajamas. I showed up in pajamas. Yeah.
Full slippers.
Yep. Slippers.
Everything.
Yep. I remember that.
And played some weird tunes. James Velvet had some really good tunes.
Oh yeah.
But he was kind of Dylan-esque in a way.
Mm-hmm. It just
That
went,
he just wrote them and didn't care, and they all made sense because
Right.
he just wrote the chords to the melody.
right.
But then when you tried to play them,
Just
you were
like
like,
when
wow,
you
there's-
have to
there's like,
Yep.
there's
Well, John Lennon does that all the time.
Yeah.
You look at Beatles stuff and you're like, if you start thinking about it in time signature head, it'll mess you up. But then you just go, wait, just strum and imagine the melody, and then you go, oh yeah, it's a measure of 9. So what?
who cares? Yeah.
Who cares? But
Exactly.
your job is to figure it out.
And James tunes were like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And so for me, wearing pajamas puts me in a more open. It was all part. It's method.
Yeah.
It's method.
Method
So
acting.
that was how that happened.
Yeah. Love
yeah.
it.
You're really not going to let me tell the actual story.
Why? would
I was
you?
wearing
Why would you?
pajamas.
Yeah, no. Why would you? It's that's as far as I know. That's you just showed up. in
It'll make me
pajamas.
weirder. The actual real story makes me sound even weirder, so it might be good.
Really? Tell
right,
it.
so
I'm not sure I know it.
I
then.
was still on the road. I was on the road. I was still playing every night,
okay.
and I was kind of transitioning into doing more sessions, working with Jim, and he would book the sessions early, and I would just show up cranky. You know, I would just show up. You know, he'd be here at 11. Oh, okay, and I would show up, and then finally he just gave me a key and just said, "Listen, just sleep on the couch
Okay.
and get up. I don't want to deal with you. Just get up and roll downstairs and do the session rather than."
Okay.
So I'd be like, okay. So I would do a gig wherever, end up at his house, put my pajamas on, crash on the couch. And it was great. It was just like being a little kid when your mom woke you up. He would come in and go, knock on the door, turn, Johnny, the session starts in half an hour. There's coffees out there.
All right.
Oh, okay. And I would get up, go get coffee, and come downstairs. And that's how it happened.
And that was my
So I
first
didn't
introduction.
actually drive to the session in pajamas.
See, and again, my story's better. 'Cause
It is
sounds like you drove.
But you got to admit that that's
Yeah.
I'm a boss for not even putting pants on. I'm like,
Yeah,
you know
no.
what? I'm here.
You're just like
You,
yeah.
you know what they say? You're here, you're dressed. Half of those, one of those was true. I'm here, I'm not dressed. I don't care.
Yeah.
The question is, what I don't remember is when the session's over and I was going to go home, did I put actual clothes on? That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah.
I don't remember. I do remember that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But when you first said that, I was like, did I? And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would go, wake up. It's time for this. Time to make a record. Oh,
No, that was great.
yeah.
You know, I immediately was like, I like this guy. He showed up in pajamas.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Was I, because I remember for a while, did I have the pipe or that was later? I'm kidding.
That was- yeah, no,
Like,
that was-
imagine.
yeah.
Come down with the pipe.
Yeah.
Let's roll it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No pipe that time.
Not yet.
Just James smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah. That was a fun record.
Yeah. That was, you remember, I don't know if you were part of this. Do you remember we played the washing machine? That was the era of the washing machine.
Okay.
We discovered in Jim's basement, we would make records in his basement studio. And I think that was the song. We needed something on the downbeat. Boosh.
Yep.
James, we need a big sound.
Yes.
And I just like went out into the laundry room
It's a washing machine.
and just slammed the dryer and said, mic it up. This
Yeah.
is the sound.
yeah.
So we did that and nobody knew.
It's a great sound.
And then we made an echo chamber out of his back stairway. I don't know if you were around for that. We would do hand claps out there. Put the mic on the far end of the stairs and be at the bottom of the stairs and clap. And make a
yeah,
chamber
I don't know
out
if I
of
did any of that. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was fun.
the first Bell of the Fall record. There's a song Earthbound
Okay.
that you can check out later that has washing machine on it.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a
'cause
thing.
It's a great sound.
It's a great thing.
Yeah. We were looking for a big bouge on a downbeat, And I was like, what can we use? And I ran a cable down to the basement.
Yep.
And you know, I was down there smashing the
Definitely.
dryer and the washing machine. And
Yeah, we got really into it. Then you have to decide that, like,
yeah,
just a few socks,
Yeah,
maybe.
no, for sure.
What's the cotton blend? How much? You know, and then you
Yeah.
really get into
Yeah.
it. The sound.
door open, door
Yeah.
closed, inside.
Half, how
Yeah.
open, how close. Yeah.
And then I had a tin watering can
Mm-hmm.
that was really had a cool thing.
Yep.
I
We had
really-
a Charles Chip can over at
Yeah.
Jim's. That was
Charles
that thing.
Chips is
Yep.
good.
Yep.
I have a ceramic pot
Mm.
that makes a lot of records.
Oh yeah.
It's
What do you
very
do?
nice. You just hit it, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
a
yeah.
stick, and it has a very pleasing. It's kind of a pleasing cowbell, if there is such a thing.
Right.
You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
It's that kind of sound. That was it, right? That
Yeah.
means like whatever.
Mm.
That was the alarm.
Yeah.
Get up.
Is it?
No, I don't know. I just heard it sound.
Yeah, that's all right.
We're good.
That's cool. Cool. All right, real quick. We're getting close. We're over an hour. So
Yeah,
let's get
whatever.
into the real stuff.
Okay, whatever you want,
All
man.
right, do you know what the real stuff is?
I don't know.
All right. Number one, are you a practicer of your instrument consistently? You don't have to be. I'm just curious.
Yes.
What are you currently working on? Is there anything interesting that you're working on right now that gives us an idea of how you operate?
I currently, right now, I currently hurt my finger.
Ooh.
So I'm not playing. I'm not practicing just this week. Basically, I'm working on, I kind of go back and forth because I play a lot of instruments. So I'm practicing tenor guitar,
Oh.
which is tuned in fifths.
Okay.
It's 4 strings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the tenor, banjo, mandolin, that family.
Right.
So I'm practicing that a lot, just trying to get my head around and my hands around that instrument. I'm practicing 3-note voicings on guitar.
Okay.
You know,
So instead of full chords, just partials or something.
yeah, just partial voicings on 3 strings.
Hmm.
You know, those just those kind of voicings, and then that's about it right now. But I
That's
go
cool.
back and forth. I'll revisit stuff if I feel like my time is funny. I'll go back and do metronome work.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of I try to do that a lot. I just basically go through from whole, half triplet, quarter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just
Always.
and work the times and
Always,
just
yeah.
make it where like I don't feel like I'm
Yeah.
on. You know what I mean?
I know. I do.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
So that was the one. I usually go back to the game changers for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that was one when Dave showed me that. It was like
How to get from 16th notes to triplets and so forth.
and not
Yeah.
completely lose the click for
Yep.
a beat.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah, changed my sense of time, so I still go back to that just to make sure it's on point.
Yep. That's cool. That's cool. You should get into I'm into the dulcimer. That's my new thing, mountain dulcimer. I'm
Okay.
teaching myself. And it's like, it's a 3-string instrument,
Okay.
open tuning,
Yep.
D, low D, A, high octave higher D, double D string, melody
Okay.
string. And it's cool because the chord shapes it's different. It's an open tuning.
Sure.
So that's like right up your alley. So the shapes they're different than, I can't play guitar anyway, but they're different than guitar, and you play it on your lap.
Yep.
So, but that's kind of cool because everything is just a 3-note chord.
Yes.
So you figure out when you're playing, they're different inversions of every chord. You're not always playing a root. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So the shapes are interesting, and you just work your way up the neck.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
And that's
it's a
kind of
beautiful sound.
And that's the idea with 3-note voicings
Right, that's
on
what I was
guitar
thinking. Yeah.
is that you're just playing every inversion you can grab in this one little section once you start
Then
opening.
we're talking. It's
Yeah.
basically
Yep.
the same thing. That's
Yeah.
cool. All right. Desert Island album 1. Is it It doesn't have to be only one, but
Okay. For me, it's the White Album.
wow. Me too.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
100%. Why?
Because it's just, you can't get bored with it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not my favorite Beatles album even.
Right.
But if I was on a desert island, that's the one I'd want.
Interesting.
Because I feel like Rubber Soul, I'd be like, oh, okay, I still love the album,
Sure.
but it's not as varied. You know, you don't
Yeah.
go from Blackbird to Helter Skelter.
Right.
Yeah. So it's always
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mine too.
nice.
I never get tired of it.
Yeah.
I like the aesthetic. I like that it's just things sound like what they sound like.
Yeah.
They're kind of past Sgt. Pepper, and it just kind of like boom.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And that production aesthetic is what I gravitate towards. It's just kind of dry,
Yep.
and things are what they are.
Okay.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sensibility that's where I went from. Kind
All
of
right.
White Album. Cool.
Well, so now if we're ever deserted together, we'll only have one
right.
album.
Only have one album.
That
That's
was-
fine.
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Never skip Revolution number 9. It's part of it.
Yeah.
I never skip it.
Absolutely not.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Most people, no,
Yeah.
man, you got to sit through it.
It's
Gotta
part of
sit
the
through
album.
it. Yeah,
man.
it's part of the album.
Yeah.
And finally,
Okay.
if you could, is there a time in your life or your moment or your week when you're eating a particular thing that's part of your diet that you just go, you know what? I wish I could eat this every day. What would it be? This tells us a lot about who we are as people. This is my theory.
I'm a chicken guy, man.
Anything chicken.
I could just, and I probably do. I eat it every day. I'm good with it, you know?
Any way.
I just bake it. I just like baked thighs. You know what I mean? As long, and that's it. So I would, yeah, I don't like breasts. They're too dry.
Okay.
The white meat's not, you know what I
Sure.
mean? So a chicken thigh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could eat that and I do. I just kind of eat it almost every day.
Far out.
I'm like I always say I'm like a vegetarian. I'm a pescatarian that eats chicken.
Right.
You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of my thing.
That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
That's an answer. For sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Chicken would be my thing.
Everybody's got something. All
Yeah.
right. That's cool. We're definitely going to do this again,
Yeah, I'd love
you
to,
know, at
man.
some point, because
Yeah.
it's what always happens is we end up going long, and I still feel like there's things to talk about, but we didn't get to. So,
Yeah, well, there's certain people though, who are like, I feel like, or maybe it's everyone, or I don't know. But for me, at least, I feel like you're a guy we could sit down and just talk for, you know, right?
yeah, and we have.
And tonight we probably, it's been 4 hours because we went out to dinner earlier and we haven't stopped talking since.
It happens.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
That's why we're here,
yeah.
theoretically.
Yeah, just to, yeah, I think you're a curious guy, which is a good thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's why it's fun to talk to you, because you're curious about stuff.
Why not?
Yeah.
Curious enough.
Yep.
And all right, so we had a moment, and then we'll go, because I'm going to hit the button. So my theme song to the show, I hit it, and you said, "Oh, what song is that?" And I said, "It's this. It's this."
It's the
But you
very
think this
first
is some-
chord.
All right,
It's
you
just the
ready?
first one. It's not.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
What is that?
Is it something? I feel like, and it was just the first one though. It was like not even the bend. It was just the first note, not even this interval. Just the. Yeah, that is like. I feel like it's almost. Is it an AC/DC tune?
I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, I will.
Put it in the comments if you ever figure it out.
I will.
Well, what note is that?
I don't have perfect
Perfect
pitch,
pitch.
but it sounds like
does
it's.
they?
Is it an A? I feel like that's an A.
What pitch is that? Where's your snark?
Yeah.
You ever do that?
We'll figure
Test
it
your
out.
pitch, sing into a snark, and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
that.
I don't have. I can't tell. Once I know the first note, then I can start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Relative pitch.
Well, we don't know what
is-
this sounds like. It sounds like something. Anyway,
Yeah, right.
now we're going to
feel
hear the
like
whole
it's-
thing.
Yeah,
All right, you ready?
sounds good, man.
All right. This has been the John Peckman Podcast. This is Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance podcast studio here in Portland, beautiful downtown Portland, Connecticut. Come over the bridge, start looking left. We are here, Mr. Tracy Walton, owner, operator of On Deck Sound Studios in Northfield, Connecticut. Is that
If I was smart, I'd say I have a record coming out in a couple
Oh,
weeks. But that's
please.
fine.
No,
That's,
please.
No. I do, just so people, if people get to the end,
Yeah.
Look. There's Small Town America. It'll be out in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Singles out and all that stuff.
Tracy Walton record.
Yeah.
Look for it. Right?
Yeah, why not?
Cool.
Right?
Cool.
Why
Cool.
not?
Yeah, why not? All right, we're gonna roll, and I'll see you. We'll do this again,
Love it.
as we always say. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. See you later, John Peckman Podcast, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, beautiful downtown Portland. And we will see you next time. This was Tracy Walton from
Thanks for having me, man.
Northwest Corner. Is that what you
That's
call it?
it. Northwest Corner.
He owns that corner. Owns the corner.
I was born there.
That's right. That's right. Listen for the hi-hats. Hear that at the end?
Nice.
All right. Thanks. See you guys later. Adios. Bye.